Hi, my name is Elsa Backstrom, the owner and founder of Lani Solutions. I wanted to take some time to review the Gottman Method's Sound Relationship House with you. I find this to be a really helpful graphic in the work because it helps us focus on what we're looking forward to and trying to create in the communication dynamics, instead of getting bogged down with what's not working. So the Gottman Method Sound Relationship House is based on extensive research that the Gottmans did, looking at couples over a long period of time and looking at what worked and what didn't work. And so they compiled what worked into this nice graphic. So we're going to start at the beginning, or at the bottom. And I also brought these kind of tools for the trade-in that I'm going to go over with you, just so you know how to navigate through the sound relationship house. So the first layer is called building love maps. And this is about the importance of knowing one another's world, both knowing their external world, what kind of stresses they experience on a daily basis, and their internal world, knowing the formative experiences they had growing up. And it's important to know these because they're likely to come up in your relationship. And the more you know about them, the easier it's going to be for you to navigate around them with your partner. So I have this really helpful little card deck, and it's called the Love Map Card Deck. And it helps because you can play these cards and you can navigate and engage with some kind of difficult content in a really fun, user-friendly format. And it helps you deepen your understanding of your partner. So moving up, we have share fondness and admiration. And that's about the importance of building a culture of appreciation in your relationship. And it's really about enriching your experience of your relationship. So this is important because we can also kind of tune back into that when things are more difficult. And if we have this kind of reservoir of appreciation, your partner is more likely to feel loved and cared for, and more likely to view you as a resource and a support system in difficult transitions. So I also have a card deck for that called Build Rituals of Connection. And this is important because it helps us make these things a habit. It helps them happen on a daily occurrence instead of sporadically. So moving up, we have turn towards instead of away. And that's about the importance of looking at your partner and making direct eye contact, helping them feel connected to and listened to instead of disengaging, turning away. Right? So it's much more difficult for your partner to feel listened to and cared for if you're disengaging and turning away. And what the research on this has found is that turning towards, even in casual conversation, creates a template that we then carry over into conflict scenarios. So it's important to look at your partner and make that connection even in just very casual everyday moments. So all three of the ones we just reviewed, turning towards instead of away, sharing fondness and admiration, and building love maps, these are considered the foundation of the relationship because they're about building a friendship system and enriching your experience in the relationship, really knowing your partner more and more. Now moving up, we have what's considered the middle component of the sound relationship house. So we have the positive perspective. And I tend to think of this as a continuum. So on one end of the continuum, we have the honeymooners. And the archetypal honeymooners really navigate over some difficult scenarios very smoothly and gracefully because there's such a feeling of love. There's such a feeling of forgiveness and a container of really unconditional positive regard. Now, at the other end of the continuum, we have what's called negative sentiment override. And what that means is that the negative perspective you have on the relationship is really overwhelming. And it can often mean that you don't give your partner the benefit of the doubt. You're feeling hopeless and overwhelmed. And probably deeply frustrated here too. So what we need to do is move more towards this positive sense of the relationship because it tends to feel more hopeful and it tends to give you a deeper sense of giving your partner the benefit of the doubt. So moving up, we have managing conflict. So managing conflict is something that we spend a lot of time here doing in couples counseling. And we're just going to go through them. So the first one is accepting your partner's influence. And that's about the importance of realizing your partner might have a different but equally valid perspective over a series of events that happen. It's also about the idea that your partner influences you. And so it's being able to compromise and yield in situations. So compromise is crucial. Now moving down, we have dialoguing about problems. So this is about the ability to talk about problems without making them a fight, or with making the fights more peaceful. What the research finds is that we fight again and again around the same content. So the importance isn't so much about shifting the content, it's about having these conversations feel more peaceful and more safe. So practice self-soothing. Now this is potentially the most crucial part of all of this. So when we feel threatened, we tend to interact with what's called the survival brain, the limbic brain. And so that's located right here. It's where your skull and your spine meet. And it's important that you have a survival brain. You need a survival brain so you can react when you feel threatened, so that you can react instinctively. Now, the problem is that when you feel threatened, you're not making the best decisions for the survival of your relationship. You're not making a calm decision, you're not being able to problem solve. So we need to actually activate this prefrontal cortex, right? This prefrontal cortex allows us to feel compassion, empathy, allows us to connect. When we feel threatened, we have very few options. We can either freeze, which would be stonewalling, which we'll review in a little bit, or we can flight, so that would be running away from the situation, or we can fight, right? Fight, flees, or fright. And so those are not helpful for conflict resolution. So it's helpful instead to activate this prefrontal cortex and be able to have more complex reasoning abilities. And so in order to activate the prefrontal cortex and to have these experiences of empathy, compassion, connection, we have to feel calm. We have to feel safe. We can't feel threatened. And in order for that to happen, we have to be able to self-soothe. So I have these little helpful relaxation techniques that we'll review sometimes here. And that helps us bring the heart rate down. It helps us de-escalate our physiology so that we can respond to a situation more effectively. So moving up, we have create shared meaning and make life dreams come true. And these are important because this is about building the legacy of your relationship. This is about looking at kind of the cream of your relationship, what you want your lives to be about. So this is important because you need to know how to support your partner's career goals, and you also need to know kind of the co-created goals that you have, the legacy, the value system that you want. So trust and commitment are really considered the walls, the pillars of the sound relationship house. And just like in any actual structure, if the walls are damaged, it's going to impact different layers of the structure. However, it doesn't mean that we can't do some repair work. So in spaces of either emotional infidelity or affairs, the trust really might be breached. And we might have to work on rebuilding these trust areas and the areas of the structure and deepening a sense of trust. So I hope you found this information helpful. I really think it's a nice graphic for us to work with in here. And I look forward to answering any questions you might have. Please feel free to contact me to set up an initial intake. Thank you so much. Bye.